Welcome, everyone. I'm Jeremy, and I'm a field organizer in Livingston County for Elissa Slotkin for Congress. I'm a Michigan native, and I've lived in Livingston County for over 15 years, the majority of my life. Now, I'm organizing for Elissa because I know that she cares deeply for the residents of Livingston County and understands the issues that face us most hardest. Growing up in Livingston, I swam on our local lakes and fished in the Huron River. I grew up knowing that our community needed to do more to preserve the water resources that we as Michiganders take pride in. Today, we can't eat the fish that we fish in the Huron River because of contamination from PFAS in the Huron River watershed. Parents have to tell their kids before they go swimming to avoid foam that may contain PFAS chemicals. I want to make sure that the generation that comes after me and the generation that comes after that and the generation that comes after that has the right to experience the experiences that I've had on our water resources and have the same memories that I've made on our water resources. Right now, PFAS contamination jeopardizes that, and that's not okay. Fortunately, Elissa ran on a platform in 2018 that included protection of Michigan's natural resources. And she's already advocated for 6 provisions related to PFAS protection that are now signed into law. Because of Elissa's work in Congress, our water is cleaner and our communities are safer, and I thank her so much for that. In order to keep and build on this progress, we need to do the work on a grassroots level to elect Elissa Slotkin to Congress. COVID-19 has fundamentally changed the way we campaign, but here's how you can help. As a campaign right now, we're doing a couple things. First, we're doing what we call online voter calls. This is where we have people from across the district call into a Zoom call, and then they call people from across the district to tell them about Elissa's positive vision for Michigan's 8th district. Additionally, we're doing contactless voter canvassing. This is where we go from house to house and drop off customized literature and avoid talking to people at the houses so we can mitigate the spread of COVID-19. This makes sure that we can spread the word about Elissa's positive message for Michigan's 8th district while keeping safe from the spread of COVID. So thank you very much for attending this live stream. I welcome you all, and please give a warm welcome to small business owner Carly Weiss.
Thank you so much for having me here today. My name is Carly Lisk, and I and my husband David and our son Milo live in Howell, and we are the owners of Culture Beer and Cheese in downtown Brighton. We opened our shop about 2 years ago, and we've created a lovely band of really loyal customers. And because of them, we've been able to grow and thrive and succeed. So while we were initially very worried when COVID-19 hit, not knowing what to expect for ourselves or our business, it was those loyal customers who kept coming back week after week and kept supporting us. And they are what got us through, and they are why we are surviving. So we are so incredibly thankful to our community that we can be a successful business, and we can thrive and grow, and we can raise our son. And we are also so lucky to have Elissa as our representative in Congress. When COVID-19 hit, Elissa stood up for small businesses, getting on the phone personally with the regional head of the SBA and advocating for those businesses that she represents and working to keeping PPP loans flowing to these small businesses. She wrote a bill that passed the House that would help bring transparency to prescription drug costs. She has passed into legislation a law that protects these beautiful Livingston County lakes from PFAS contaminations. And at a time when there is so much nastiness and name calling and anger in politics, Elissa has remained straightforward and honest and hardworking. I know this is a tough district for a Democrat to win, but I also know that I'm proud to talk about Elissa to my friends and neighbors. And I also know that even those who don't agree with her respect her. And that is why I am so proud to introduce her to you today. Ladies and gentlemen, Congresswoman Elissa Slotkin.
Thank you, Carly. That was lovely. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone out there on the live stream. Hello to our small, socially distanced crew we have here. in the Brighton area. It is great to be in Livingston County on our second of third stops of our campaign relaunch. And, you know, it's a sign of the times that we're here doing a very different launch than we did exactly 3 years ago today. July 10th, 2017, we launched our campaign to win the 8th district. And at that time, we were really considered an underdog in this district. We were really considered an upstart campaign. And what a difference 3 years makes. It's great to be back and relaunching. That said, we're all experiencing completely different life because of COVID-19. And so what we're attempting to do is recreate what was a really important part of the campaign to me, which was that personal connection between people, reaching out to people in their communities, neighbor to neighbor, to have conversations about how people want to be represented. So that's what we're trying to do in a socially distanced way, with lots of people online watching, and trying to make sure we go to all 3 counties today. You know, many of you know that the reason I got into this race to begin with was kind of an interesting winding tale. My husband and I are both in national security. Dave is here in the back of the gazebo. I'm a former CIA officer and Pentagon official. I met Dave in Baghdad in Saddam's palace, a Baghdad romance, and we were happily apolitical. We worked for whoever was our commander-in-chief very proudly. I actually had the opportunity to work in the Bush White House, and I was there the last day that he was in office, and then the first day that Barack Obama was in office. And we were careful to, frankly, be very apolitical. But the tenor and tone of the campaign in 2016 just felt different to us. And it felt fundamentally unbecoming of the country that we served and we all love. So I started getting interested in politics, just figuring it out, trying to learn more about it. But what really drove me into the race was something much more personal. And that was the issue of healthcare as it related to my mom. My mom died in 2011 of ovarian cancer. And when she was diagnosed, she did not have healthcare. She had let it lapse. And she struggled with her healthcare her whole life because she had a pre-existing condition. She had an early cancer when she was a young mom. And that experience was formative, dealing with her diagnosis, her terminal diagnosis, the same week and the same month that we were dealing with the fact that she didn't have coverage and filling out paperwork for her to declare bankruptcy. So when I turned on the TV in May of 2017 and saw that the House of Representatives had just voted to repeal the ACA or Obamacare, or what I really care about, coverage for people with pre-existing conditions, that was a breaking point for me. And Dave and I turned to each other and we said, no, you don't get to do that. And we decided to get in the race July 10th, 2017. And I've been very proud to represent this district for the past 18 months. But I think it's important when you are running for election, and we do that every 2 years in the House of Representatives, to not take anything for granted, to not rest on your laurels, and to make sure that you are constantly earning people's vote. So that's what I hope to do in the next 4 months. Either I hope to earn your second vote for me, or maybe your first. You know, we went into Congress with the priorities that were critical in the district. Frankly, the stuff I was hearing most about when people pulled me over in the supermarkets, on the streets, when I was at an event, people would pull me aside and talk to me about the price of healthcare, the price of prescription drugs, clean water, and then frankly, bringing civility and decency back to Washington. So those are my priorities. And I went to Washington to further those issues. Now, we know it's a polarized environment in Washington, but I've been extremely proud that we were able to indeed pass 9 provisions into law, 6 of them on PFAS. And I must say that Livingston County was quite literally on my mind when we both drafted and then pushed forward those bills, because we know that Livingston County is the home of 4 PFAS contamination sites. And I have gone on the pontoons, on the chain of lakes. We have seen the foam. We've all seen, again, just in the past 10 days, another warning not to eat the fish out of the Huron River. It is with us here. And Livingston County is frankly the place where I really feel I formulated my thoughts on trying to change our approach on environmental issues, because environmental security is homeland security. It's about the safety of our kids. One who can help you compromise and get something done, to actually put points on the board. And I believe in doing that, that I'm representing the state that I love. Michigan is a place that is practical, that is very bipartisan, and that believes in decency. And those are the values that I try to bring with me when I go to Washington. On bipartisanship in particular, the minute I got to Washington and was sworn in, I joined something called the Problem Solvers Caucus, which is equal numbers of Democrats and Republicans. It's the only bipartisan caucus that meets every single week. And we work on legislation where we overlap, where we agree. Because even though at the most senior levels, there are, of course, major political differences, it is quite literally my job to find those places of overlap, to find those places where we agree and push forward legislation that helps people's lives. That is quite literally my job. So bipartisanship for me is not something that I hope to aspire to in another era. It is something that I've tried to live from the moment I arrived in Washington. I also believe deeply that voters in the 8th District are independently minded. And when I got to Washington, I realized there are a lot of members of Congress who are from very deeply Republican districts or very deeply Democratic districts. And therefore, they don't necessarily take the time to learn about each and every issue. They just have sort of a knee-jerk reaction to whatever vote has come up that day. You have my commitment that I will never just check the box and vote a certain way politically without digging into the details, hearing from the district, and making my own independent judgment, because that is what I believe this district expects of me. Now, looking forward, we are in a very different moment than even just 3 months ago. COVID-19 has completely changed our economy, our public health situation, our outlook, the lives of our children have completely changed. And so going forward, while the priorities I had in my first term need to be carried forward, the price of healthcare, the price of prescription drugs, and clean water, we must add to that 2 major issues. One is economic recovery. We cannot move forward unless we figure out a way to stimulate our economy back to full health. And that's something I know we're going to be working on quite a bit over the next 2 months in Congress as we try to get past a situation that is unprecedented, frankly. And in that, the focus is on jobs, jobs, and jobs. And then secondly, I will tell you that a principal lesson for me from the COVID-19 first wave that we had in March and April was that I think the chickens came home to roost on the issue of supply chains. And we have outsourced our medical supply chain and our pharmaceutical supply chain so far that I had to haggle with Chinese middlemen in order to get a 78-cent mask for our nurses at the hospitals. I had to beg, borrow, and steal in order to get gowns and gloves and swabs and basic medical equipment. Now in Michigan, we know, going back to the 80s, we have done too much to outsource our manufacturing. But the chickens really did come home to roost, particularly on supply chains with a very specific national security implication. So we've already sponsored over, I think, 7 or 8 bills on Made in America manufacturing. How do we incentivize American companies to make critical supplies here in the United States? Something I spent a lot of time on at the Pentagon, where we have very strict Buy American requirements, but somehow we don't have those same requirements on things like medical supplies and pharmaceuticals. And it puts us at risk, and we saw that in real time during COVID-19. So you have my commitment that those are my priorities and my issues for my hopeful second term. I will just say that in addition to what we've been able to achieve, I do believe that the way I go about dealing with problems and issues is hopefully something that makes me slightly different from many other politicians out there. Half of our bills, over half of our bills that we've gotten turned into law came from ideas directly from the district. From a veteran who comes up to me in Oakland County and says, I want the GI Bill to cover my apprenticeship. How can we get that done? We turned that into a bill. We turned that into a law that was signed by the president in late March. So listening, turning that into action, and then keeping that focus on the mission of getting that done. That is what I've learned from my experience, and that is what I hope to bring in my second term, as I tried to do in my first. Lastly, for those of you who are willing to help us out and wanting to get involved, this is just a moment where we need a couple inches more from everybody than what we've done in the past. This is an extremely important election coming up in November. And what I would ask is that you consider volunteering for our campaign. It will make you feel invested and connected to community in a way that is often hard during COVID-19. We had the largest field campaign in the Midwest in 2018. 200,000 doors were knocked. 1 million phone calls were made. 300,000 texts were sent. And what we've done is recalibrate and reimagine the campaign for the COVID era. So signing up at elissaforcongress.com, where you can get involved in phone banking and in texting and in this touchless literature drops and canvassing. All these things we've tried to reimagine. There's no playbook for this. Creative ideas are not only welcome, but needed. We're doing stuff like thinking of advertising on the top of pizza boxes and on video, or on the video screens on gas pumps. Like, this is a time for creativity and ingenuity. So we're going to need everyone's help with that. And I would love it if folks wanted to sign up to participate. Just dip your toe in the water. Lastly, I just want to thank my team who has set up another great event as we're marching across the district. This is something that's hard to do in an era where we need to maintain social distance. They've done a fantastic job in the rain, I would offer. Thank you for your interest, for your commitment. My goal is to be a part of a different generation of leaders that thinks differently and works harder and never forgets who we serve. So thank you for your time, and thank you for the opportunity to earn your vote. Thanks very much.